It's 4 a.m. in the English Channel. We're on board the Marmozet, a French fishing trawler steered by Olivier. He's been a skipper for 30 years and often casts his net in British waters. Britain's seas are among the most fish-rich in the world, a treasure shared among European fishermen for centuries. Olivier mostly fishes in the Channel, the sea that separates northern France and southern England.
We can see the Douglas Spit. I spent 60 to 70% of my time in British waters. France is here, and the United Kingdom is on this side. This is the narrowest section where the two coastlines are closest. They're only 22 kilometers apart. I'm about in the middle. You can see here, that's my boat, and the borderline is in green. So here, this is the English side, and that's the French side. So obviously, if, after Brexit, us French are kicked out of British waters, I'll lose 70% of my profit. Basically, I'll go bankrupt.
Since 1983, boats from across the EU have been fishing freely in each other's economic exclusive zones, designated by the UN. When Britain leaves the EU, for the first time in nearly 40 years, it could restrict access to European vessels, and they could lose more than half of their catch. French fishermen would lose the most money, 170 million euros a year.
Fish caught by us. It's delicious. It was caught in British waters.
In a cruel irony, Olivier and his nephew signed for their new trawler just before Britain voted to leave the EU. The Marmozet cost 2.5 million euros. It's early morning on the French side of the Channel this time.
Now we're going to pull in the nets. Down in the sea, there's no wall dividing English and French waters. The fish don't know where they are.
The EU tries to protect fish stocks by allocating maximum catch limits for different species to each country. They're known as quotas, and the Dutch have bought out more than 21% of England's quota. They're like the bankers of the sea, says Olivier. He spots one fishing in the same zone as he is and refuses to switch course.
He's just in front. Tell him I won't move.
The vessel is Dutch, but because it owns English quota, it's flying the United Kingdom's flag.
Ask if he just wants me to go back to Boulogne and leave the zone to him.
You want I go back to Boulogne?
The French are being sarcastic.
No, maybe for one whole turn earlier to east. So after this, no problem with us.
If Britain breaks away from the EU's quota system and restricts access to European fishermen, they'll all have to cram into a smaller area of sea. That could lead to overfishing. For now, the EU says its quotas have allowed fish stocks to improve. But there's a big drawback.
There's a ban on fishing sea bass. We've just caught one by accident. A sea bass which weighs 4 kilograms, that's 80 euros. So we have to throw away 80 euros into the sea, even though it's dead. This winter we were targeting squid. 4 tons of sea bass got into our net. We had to throw them back into the sea.
Throwing dead fish back into the sea because they fall outside the EU's quotas angers fishermen across Europe.
You can go to every port in France and all the fishermen will tell you the same thing. 96% of British fishermen voted to leave the EU, and it wasn't for the hell of it. They voted Brexit because they're fed up.
After 72 hours of fishing, the Marmozet arrives home in Boulogne. This is the busiest fishing port in France. 65% of the catch comes from British waters. With Brexit looming, it's on borrowed time. We cross the Channel and head to Devon, in the southwest of England. Ilfracombe used to be a busy fishing port. Now it's a spot for holidaymakers. There are only 2 trawlers left. Keen not to lose them, the port doesn't charge them to dock. They belong to the Wharton brothers, Scott and Paul.
I like that gate this time, actually. Over 10-metre trawlers. We think we're probably nearly the last 2 on the west coast of England. There used to be 20 boats operate for North Devon. I wish there was more boats here.
The Whartons are determined to stay in business. There are only half as many fishermen in Britain as there were 35 years ago.
What did you want? So I couldn't make out what you wanted.
Only a small box.
Claire and her husband Paul Wharton run a cafe on the quayside. They sell fish and seafood straight off the boats.
I like to have a selection, not lots of anything, just a mixture. Why? Because it's more interesting to look at on the slab. Yeah, see? Not just a pretty face.
Making the catch look appealing. Highly necessary, given the British live on an island surrounded by a huge range of fish species, most of which they don't eat. They stay safe with salmon, tuna, prawns and classic cod, particularly in the form of fish and chips. Places like this are rare.
That is so fresh. That'd do it 4 people easy.
It would be 4 people.
Yeah, you need it for 2, really. Cheese on top's nice. Cook one side, turn the other side up, cook it and grate cheese on top. Let the cheese melt on it.
You grill it, didn't you? Enjoy.
Thank you very much.
Fish and seafood lovers do exist in Britain, but they're few and far between.
It's fresh, it's fantastic, it's as good as France, and it's not expensive.
Yesterday we had a whole lobster each. It was beautiful.
Yeah, go on, you touch him. Brave boy. Ah, well done, Angus. Should we say bye-bye? I'm going to call him Angus. Angus after Angus. Ready? Whee!
British fishermen catch over 50 species of fish and seafood. The Whartons want to encourage everyone to eat more.
Good to see the young people eating fish. There's not enough of that in this country. We've maintained our business. I don't know how we have, but we have. Through hard commitment, and you've got to have a passion for it, because, to be honest, the money involved in it now, you wouldn't invest to get a return on your money, because you just wouldn't get the return. It's not because there isn't a fish at sea, it's because you're not allowed to catch the fish at sea.
Almost every fisherman voted for Brexit. They say the EU's quota system stops them making a living.
What are we chopping off, Danny?
Where was he?
And they point the finger at their own government. Scott's son Dan is also a skipper.
It's hard work, and the government make it a lot harder.
They say their government has never supported them because fishing represents only 0.5% of the economy. And as Britain negotiates an exit deal with the EU, Dan isn't optimistic.
And I fancy the fishing industry will be used as a bargaining tool, which won't do us any favours.
Father and son might sell one of their trawlers and take on a smaller boat instead. Paul Wharton has already made that decision. Like 3/4 of British fishermen, he steers a boat that's under 10 metres long.
Nice weather. Greatest weather. Who's the best?
Paul's days on trawlers are over. With his smaller boat, he targets shellfish that aren't restricted by EU quotas. He says they're getting more and more strict.
It's just stopping everything. There's no bass, there's no ray quota, there's just no sole quota, no plaice, no cod. It's just knock after knock after knock. And this is nature out here, and it's always been here for a lot longer than we've been here, and it still produces. Measure him, might be the size.
Nice blueies, nice lobbies.
If you want to catch enough fish for ourselves to survive, or not with other foreign boats, because they take a lot of our fish. So we want our waters back so we can have it for ourselves, for our future.
British fishermen catch 40% of all the fish caught in Britain's waters. All the rest is caught by boats from other European countries. We decided to find a foreign boat that lands its catch on British soil. The Welsh port of Milford Haven is popular with Belgian vessels. For several days, we tracked one using an online map. It shows live positions of boats all around the world. There he is. At 7 in the morning, as expected, the Belgian boat docked in Milford Haven after 9 days at sea.
It's nice fishing here. It's nice coming here. Just seeing the other countries is also a nice part of our job. Just going other places. You don't see if you just stay in your own country. It's not like they hate us because we're Belgians and we fish in their waters. It's not really something we notice here ashore.
His dad has been coming here since 1988. Their boat fishes 270 days a year.
We are always with 6 people on board, and 3 or 4 people stay home, and we switch all the time. So, and we fish over here until the quota's gone, till we can't fish anymore. So we fish all over Europe, actually.
He thinks Belgian vessels get 70 to 80% of their catch in British waters. Belgium only has a small coastline, 64 kilometers long.
It's for the auction in Zeebrugge tomorrow.
Why?
To sell our fish in Belgium, because the prices are better in Belgium than here.
They catch 50 different species of fish in British waters, compared to only 5 at home. Like the fish, the crew are heading back to Belgium. For 30 years, a local Welsh agent has dealt with their customs forms, transport documents, and anything the Belgian crew might need.
Yeah.
And you're in what? The boats that come in here are Spanish and Belgium. That is it. I think that everyone blames everyone else. They're only doing what their quotas and what their licenses allow. They're not stealing it, are they?
Quotas are the main source of frustration British fishermen have towards the EU. But who really decides who fishes what? The European Commission gets advice on fish stocks from 2 independent scientific bodies. Each December, fishing ministers from across the EU decide how much of each species can be caught for the following year. But it's up to each government to decide how they distribute their quota back home. In Britain, boats under 10 metres long, which make up 2/3 of the fleet, have only 1.5%. And Greenpeace has revealed that just 3 companies own 53% of all English quota. We headed to Plymouth, where one of these companies is based. Interfish Limited. This is one of the Interfish boats, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. This one and then 2 alongside each other in front of us.
These trawlers have nets on both sides so they can catch fish in deep water, in high quantities.
With this stuff, a bit of everything. Monkfish, cod, adder, Dover soles, lemon soles. A bit of everything.
We go aboard to speak to the skipper and ask who owns the boat.
No, I don't own the boat. Interfish own the boat.
And do you have enough of the quota that you need to catch what you want to catch?
Yeah, within reason. Can't go too mad, but yeah, we're all right for quota, really.
A few big fishing companies are actually doing well. It's Britain's small-scale fishermen who are struggling to make a living with limited or no access to quota. Fishing rights off the coast of Britain have long been a battleground. Uncertainty over what will happen when it leaves the EU is not helping to calm the waters.